Good time. It's the 8th day of November, 2015, and this is the Radical Agnostic. The Radical Agnostic.
Wow. You know how weird this would be if you left that effect on the whole time. Like how weird the show would get.
Today we're coming from a cathedral. St. Patrick's Cathedral in Manhattan.
Why does it remind me of one of those weird clown pranks that they do in garages?
What is a clown prank in a
never seen those
garage?
scary
What the
ass
hell are
clown
you
pranks,
doing?
dude,
Where they
got-
jump out and stuff?
Yeah, they got like the bloody hammer or something, and they come running at you.
And there's a famous one of the black dude where it pops out and he just decks it in the face and knocks it out.
He jumps out of like a trash can or something.
These guys have like
Hits
a
it with a right hook.
These guys have like a police car as a prop. They do it in Vegas. They look really scary, dude.
Yeah, no, I've seen that on YouTube.
Yeah, fuck around and get shot soon. Probably one of those guys is gonna, because people have a thing about clowns, man.
Well, and those guys who run around being like, do you lift, bro? Or no, the guys, these white guys that were running around pantsing black dudes, they would go up to like, I guess they found that if you get, really aggressive with a group of black dudes, like most of the time nothing bad will happen because they're just normal people and most people don't get into fights over silly crap. But there's a bunch where the guys just beat the crap out of these dudes and like knock them out, throw them up against the wall. It's like, don't pull my pants down, you idiot.
You know what really, like, that goes to that whole play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Yeah.
thing. I know, like, who was that guy that Drew Barrymore was married to for a while? Really weird.
Oh, Tom Green.
I always thought, man, like, if you come up and try to feed me a hair sandwich, bro, you're probably going to get in a fight with me. I'm not saying I'm going to kick your ass, but I'm probably going to try.
Well, and even worse than that, I think the guys who are doing the pantsing also like go around and like actually call black dudes nigger.
Oh yeah,
and like what up nigga, boo,
Yeah.
Or they fucking to women they're like, hey slut, or you want to fuck, or and then like trying to get like a reaction of
It seems like you're trying to get beat
No,
up.
they-
Like that's
well-
your end game is like, I want to get punched in the face to see what it's like.
You know what though? Those to me sound like angry dudes that really do dislike black people and women. I don't think it's all for fun. Like it sounds like it's just it sounds nasty.
It could be, right.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to argue that you're dealing with assholes right there.
Yeah.
I just don't understand. Like,
I've seen
Are
some Spanish guys doing it though, where they're pantsing people and then like spraying them with something like shaving cream or something. Like Luis posted it. Or have you seen the one where the guy's riding down the escalator and he pies the people on the other side?
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be that mad if I got pantsed. I wouldn't be happy, and if they went away after that, I would be like, all right.
Yeah, pantsing and even the pie in the face. That's a little more comical than like saying something that's actually like fucked up.
The pie in the face is a little much for me because now you're hitting my face with a pie. That could set me off a little bit.
Tin of fucking shaving cream.
Yeah, I know, but you ever? I've thought about pies and faces quite a bit actually, because you know how it's done is you put your palm on the bottom of the pie and then you mash it in the guy's face. Your palm is hitting that guy's nose.
It's not cool.
It's not going to break it unless it's some horrible pie.
But it's not cool though.
It's not cool, Well,
it's
going to hurt. My point is, it's going to hurt a little
bit. Don't mash a pie in my face unless you want a problem. Like,
I think that's a fair rule.
But there was a guy that was going around and doing it to like politicians and different people.
Yeah.
And a lot of times he wouldn't get close enough to actually like shove it in your face. He'd be
just kind of
throwing it, kind of launching it.
That's cool, man. If you throw a pie in my face, I'm not going to be happy, but I'm going to assume I'm on camera, so I'm going to try to play it off in a jovial way.
But I wonder what happened to that guy because I haven't seen him do it in a long time.
Yeah, did he get Bush?
Election.
He didn't get him. No one ever, but he got one close to one of those. Rumsfeld or Cheney, didn't he?
He got. I think he either got Cheney or Rumsfeld. Yeah, he got somebody in the.
This just made me think of Bush dodging those shoes.
Yeah, that shoe.
Who saw the second one coming, dude? That was badass. Like, I never thought the dude would throw the other one, too.
Waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Mark, say something. Do test on your mic.
Test, check. Hello.
All right. So anyway, this is the Radical Agnostic. This is episode 35. You know, every 10 episodes or so, I like to just have a little sit down with the boys here. No guests to cramp our style and just kind of go over a few issues and canoodle on how we're doing as a show. I think we definitely hit the bottom as far as listeners, and now it's creeping back up, which is nice. We hit the bottom there.
What, we went to 0?
No, we were down to like 20 per episode, and now it's going up. And
do you think the new bite-sized portions?
They don't know what they're in store for.
Yeah. Is that what it is? Is it the new bite-sized portions?
I don't know. I think it's just a few people. Really, apparently, like 30 people out there. Really, like 3 or 4 of those are us and like our family members and stuff. But and the other reason is that I've been getting more feedback. They'll be like, "Oh, I listened to this episode, and here's what I think," and they'll get me on Facebook and stuff, and that is the most gratifying thing. So. Anyway, there's a bunch of little things we can talk about today. So last night in Arizona, California, maybe even farther afield, strange lights were viewed in the sky. Isn't that right, Brian?
Yeah.
Did you see them or just see pictures on the internet?
I just saw pictures and a bunch of people talking about them.
So,
I was
like
inside at the time.
Like tens of millions, I would say, of people saw it.
Our friend Eric Hughes was up in the chopper when it happened. He watched it.
Really?
Yeah, he said he saw all 3 stages of the rocket fire and then it come back and re-enter the atmosphere.
Yeah.
He said it was pretty scary. He
So
said he was glad it was ours.
Yeah.
So it's a Titan missile test.
Titan missile. Is that a
that's what it was?
long-range ballistic missile?
Delivers nuclear warheads.
Fired from a submarine. Which, by the way, it is true that submarine captains have the authority on their own, by their own decision-making, to fire nuclear weapons.
According to their last set of orders or something.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
if communications,
it's not that simple.
No, they can't just do it. But they have to not be able to communicate with their superiors and stuff. But in that scenario, they are allowed to do that. So they have to be given that authority, I guess.
If they can't get a connection, if they can't get 4G.
Yeah, if their 4G's down.
Think of that discussion if we were the top 3 guys on the boat.
I would just say no. Don't do it. That's my decision.
And I would say yes, do it. So you'd be the final decision, Brian.
Who we love.
Regardless of the scenario, you're voting for launch.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad.
He's like, whatever the scenario is, annihilation of the human race is always the best answer.
Right.
Fuck it, man.
And now we're resting on Brian to decide. Which means if he's in love saves the world mood, it's not going off. If he's in the other mood, it's going off.
If his toe is firing up that way.
Martin said I was a man of reason at one point.
Okay.
I don't know if he still feels that way, but at one point he called me a man of reason.
Well, yeah, so
I don't even know.
People saw that thing in the sky. I guess, people were speculating on what it was and aliens, etc. And then I think you said it was you heard it was a meteor breaking up.
Yeah, and then afterwards, Tony Cap sent me a bunch of links that the Navy was saying they had a Titan missile test off the coast of California in response to a bunch of people calling in out there like...
Yeah, well, and they said they do it frequently to keep the systems, updated and functioning.
Well, how come we only see it this time if they do it frequently?
Yeah, that's what that, and yeah, they don't, of course, disclose.
Why would we see it this far anyway? Just a missile going off. Like, did it fucking blow up?
Well, if it did go into the atmosphere, that, like you said, Eric said, then that's really high. So you're gonna, I would think.
And then it re-entered.
He said he was up in the chopper. He said he
re-entered.
was up on a flight when he saw the whole thing from up high.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but I'm just saying anything that goes all the way up to the outside the atmosphere.
Yeah,
that's gonna be visible because the meteors, the comets you see, those aren't anywhere near right above you.
Sure. Yeah.
But if they're doing it all the time, you think we'd have more reports of these? I'm not buying there all the time. I think maybe the Navy's not telling the truth.
Could be.
That's a shocking opinion, probably.
I don't know. So what are they? They're covering up the existence of aliens? I doubt it.
No, I don't think it's that. They probably don't do it all the time.
They probably messed up and like something blew up by mistake, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we meant to do that."
Yeah, that's how it goes.
And then nobody can contradict them. It's like
we call it a test. Some fail, some pass.
There's some new military weapon that they're testing out.
Yeah,
Captain America, Iron Man.
Yeah, it's the Iron Man suit.
See, actually, it was probably the Men in Black. They neuralized the whole West Coast from a satellite.
We don't. That's why none of us remember last night. It's weird, man. Lost time.
Freaky. I went to bed early. Almost never happens.
George St. Pierre was on Joe Rogan, and he was saying some weird stuff, and Rogan was like, "What do you mean about what you just said?" He's like, and he's like, "Look, man," he's like, I don't want to say, I don't like saying it, but you know, basically, he was saying that aliens were abducting him, and that he had lost time, and Joe was like, he's like, George,
Maybe you should get a CAT scan.
You have head trauma, and this isn't good. Because lost time is it's a normal symptom of like concussion and TBI, traumatic
and you've been
brain injury.
a fighter that gets punched in the head for your whole adult life. So
this kind of
but maybe that's maybe not from being a fighter is why he has head trauma, but being abducted and whatever experiments they do on his brain.
That I'd say, based on Occam's razor, that's the far more likely. On the same sort of note, that alien megastructure that was obviously there, they pointed the radio telescope at it, and they just got nothing. And so they're like, it's not aliens now. And it's like, wait a minute. First of all, it's already not aliens. It's probably something else, even though I know there's aliens out there. The chances that and then now that they point the radio dish at it, I'm like, there was no evidence that there were aliens, and now there's no evidence that there aren't just because you didn't hear radio signals. It's like, yeah, maybe an alien species that creates mega structures the size of planets to collect energy. They're not using the old radio.
It's possible.
Could be that they might have moved beyond that.
You mean that Star-Lord and the Guardians of the Galaxy aren't pumping an AM station?
Yeah, it's maybe not.
They're not doing Power 1490 slow jams?
Yeah. Or like I said, maybe it's, a dead civilization, something that was a millennia ago.
The
and
husk
now
of a mega structure.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but I guess, right.
It's the engineers, dude.
Yeah.
We'll get to see what it's really like on those megastructures in Prometheus 2.
Yeah. No, I thought he abandoned that.
Prometheus 2?
Yeah.
I think it's happening.
Oh. They should fix the first one.
What was wrong with it?
The plot, but I loved it because it was
the plot.
But
so I loved it. They should fix the broken piece of shit that I loved.
It made no sense. There's a biologist on board. They go into the building. He's completely terrified and freaked out by this alien life that he finds.
Are you talking about Conor McGregor? That dude?
Yeah, that dude. Exactly.
Okay, the Irish guy.
Yeah,
he was a bit freaked out.
Didn't act like first thing you want to do is run away. To make money. First thing you want to do is run away. He's the biologist. This is the thing he's been hoping for his entire life. And then he sees it and he's like, ew! That thing is nasty. And then he goes up and touches it with his hand. That's the first thing that the expert
wasn't that
does.
The other guy who wanted to make friends with the little worm that then
No,
broke
the
his
first
arm?
guy that died was Conor McGregor. And he was like reaching out for the slimy alien.
No, that was
thing.
his buddy. I just watched it.
The other guy wasn't objecting.
He got
it didn't make any sense.
The other guy was the one trying to touch it. He was the one telling him not to touch it, and then he cut the thing and got the acid in the face. This was Billy's pick for movie night Friday, so I just saw it.
You know how they have the little robots flying throughout the thing, mapping it out.
They would have picked up those little life forms.
And they might. And when the guys got lost, the two guys couldn't get out because they couldn't figure it out. Even though on the deck of the ship they have a giant 3D model of the whole structure,
retard central,
which they could. And they had radio communication. They could go left, now go right, and get them out of there in 10 minutes. But they couldn't do that because.
But come on, this is like the worst criticism of movies ever when you're like, it wasn't logical. Those people did not act in a completely logical way and did not act in the way that I would have thinking about it later. It's like, come on, Donald Trump running for president, and people are actually really behind it. Like if that was in a movie, if that was a movie plot, and you were watching, you'd be like, later on, you'd be like, I love that movie, but it made no fucking sense. Like there's no way that would you know.
Well, no, in 2000, there was a Simpsons episode. And it's like one of the ones where it's the future, and Bart's like, you know, a construction worker, and like all unhappy. And they show Donald Trump campaign for president. It says Trump for president, and there's all these people, and they have him on a cartoon. So that's weird enough. They predicted. Well, they tried to think of the stupidest thing for the future,
right?
And they picked that,
right.
And then that's what's happening because that's how stupid the future has turned out to be.
It's like Idiocracy, yeah.
But the weird thing about it is, in the Simpsons thing, he's in a mall, Trump, and he has his wife next to him, and they go down an escalator, and then there's a up on the level they had just been before they went down the escalator. There's people standing there with Trump signs, and there's a glass barrier, and then one of the people drops the sign and it falls down for some reason in the cartoon. And it's just like a crowd in the back. So now there's a video now of Trump that someone took in a mall, and he's going down the escalator. He's got the wife next to him in real life now, and there's people up there, and they have the signs, and then the woman drops the sign right down to her feet. And you got to watch it because it's not just like seeing patterns where there aren't. The two scenes are like identical. It's very weird. I'll send you guys a link. Like
except for is Trump still married? I know he's not married to
he's married.
Ivanka or whatever.
He's married to a new one with like the same name. It's like Ivana or something.
Well, he's always with his daughter. Every time I've seen him in the last couple of years, he's always photographed with his daughter, the one who was on the reality show with him.
Right.
And and her name's something
Ivana
similar to that.
Ivanka.
Yeah.
But you might be seeing his wife sometimes and thinking that it's his daughter because they look similar, and she's really young, the current wife. So, yeah, because you know how like presidential candidates and presidents, you know, that you have to eventually in the campaign you have to get to know the wife of the guy or the husband if it's a female candidate, and like they don't want to like reveal her, like she's like a Russian bride who's like 28, and she's just like, I don't know. I hope he wins.
I do what the Donald tells me.
But Bernie's wife is kind of awkward too. Like she's just really
Bernie's
quiet.
Bernie's kind of awkward.
Oh yeah, she's really shy.
All the videos of him dancing, they lay me down, dude. They're so funny.
Yeah,
man. Like the one, him dancing to the Drake song, it just kills.
Well, you remember? I think it was last election when Kucinich was running.
Yeah.
And his wife. Do you remember her at all? She was actually pretty hot. But like I remember one debate, the camera, it had to be the cameraman. Like every time that he would be talking, Dennis Kucinich, they'd zoom in on her and just keep the camera on her as he was talking.
Cameraman's just like not.
It's like check her out. Check her out.
It's his wife.
Kucinich, man, he was a really far left guy, kind of like Bernie.
Yeah. And he was mayor of Cleveland when the city caught on fire, or the river caught on fire.
Glory days, the glory days of Cleveland when the river was a burning.
That is his.
Well, then he was running on like an environmental policy. It's like, yeah, you were mayor of the city whose river caught on fire. Yeah, okay.
All right.
The EPA didn't have such a foothold back then.
Yeah. Speaking of which, Keystone XL, the pipeline from Canada through the U.S. to transport oil, that's finally dead. Obama shut it down.
Shut him down.
I don't know if he used a veto or what happened, but it's not happening.
So gas prices are going to start skyrocketing again?
No, because it isn't built yet, so it's not the reason we have low gas prices right now.
I don't know. That's, generally it's like something happens and they're ready to jack the prices up for anything. It's like, war happened. So like the prices are up. And it's like, nah, we still had that gas like here. The gas that was here yesterday, still the same gas that's here today. So why is it more expensive now?
What happens? I looked this up, and what the gas stations, the retailers, what they do is if their wholesale price, like the cost per barrel of oil, if that goes up at all, they raise the retail price to match that increase, or to keep their profit margin. When that like that day, if they'll check the oil markets and they'll be like, all right, it's $43 a barrel. It was 42 yesterday, so they'll up their prices. But when it goes down, when the price per barrel goes down, they sometimes
Slowly,
they don't move at all. And it's all watching the other retailers in that town and what they do. So you always want to stay at 1 cent or below the other guy across the street.
Right.
And so those gas wars will start, and they'll go down and down. But it's slow because they all have that understanding of let's hold on here, guys. Like, let's just keep it. It's sure, the price of oil is plummeting, but we'll just keep it steady at the pump for a little while, and then it'll go down.
Yeah, but that's most businesses.
Yeah, I know.
Most businesses, they oh man, we're saving tons of money. Let's pass that along to the customer. Yeah.
But it does show how the free market has a lot of benefits, because it's that competition that makes it eventually go down.
Right.
If it was state owned or something like a socialist country, it would just
stay.
There'd just be a guy in charge who said, "No, let's keep it like this so that the government makes more tax revenue."
Right.
Yeah. NASA, this whole Mars mission. I love space. I love astrophysics, all that. NASA, I love the space program, and I hope their funding stays where it is or goes up. But going to Mars with people is ridiculous. It's stupid. There's no reason to do it. I mean, there's a few things you could get, like samples and shit that you could get there as a guy that you can't get with a rover. But samples of stuff on Mars aren't really that super important. I think you just send robotic craft to all these places. Keep those missions going. I want to land something on Europa that is like a hot plate, and it'll melt through the 3 miles of ice or 50 miles, whatever it is, and into the warm ocean of water that they are almost certain exists under there. Where you have warm liquid water, you're probably going to have life, because we now know you don't need the sun to have life, because these extremophiles at the bottom of the ocean live in these vents of hot water. They've never seen a drop of sun in their life. So like the 70s, people thought you have to have photosynthesis, you have to have the sun to have life. And then they found those little guys, and they're like, nope, that was wrong. So anyway, there's probably life on one of those
moons. Plus they live in those thermal vents that's like at fucking 1,000 degrees.
Exactly.
Too, so it's
exactly.
The thermophiles, right?
Yeah, well, they're in the larger category of extremophiles. Yeah, like the things that live in Antarctica on the ice shelves and stuff. The little
and in the bottom of the ocean trenches.
Right. So there's life in the solar system probably. If there's liquid water anywhere, there's bugs in it. I'm telling you right now. But you don't need to send dudes out to Mars. It's so much more expensive, and there's no purpose for it. They're only doing it to increase their budgeting, because they can get the imagination of the people on board. If they say, we're going to send, just like in 1969, remember how awesome that was? Everyone was so patriotic. We sent dudes to the moon. Let's try to do that again. It's like,
well, and especially if they're going to send Matt Damon. Right. I'm all behind it. You send Matt Damon there? Hell yeah. They give you all the money you want.
They could send him. I'd be all right with that. Just him, though. No scientists. Like,
just Matt Damon.
Go science the shit out of it, Matt.
Go get him, Tiger. We're not coming to get you this time, though.
That's right. Give him an Instagram account and a fucking
when you think about
iPhone 7 or whatever,
people kind of assume that the reason that to go exploring other planets is that someday we might have to go there because get out of this Earth. Do you know how much work you have to do to make it life bearable on Mars? If you're worried about our planet becoming uninhabitable, it would still be better to stay here and try to fix this one than to go to that one, which is way worse. It's way worse. They have 1% of our atmosphere, which means the sun just eats your face immediately. And then when nighttime comes, you turn into just an ice block of death.
Yeah,
it's a horrible place, and it would take way more work.
It'd take way more work. You'd have to go there. You have to build malls.
Yes.
And then,
Set up elections.
Is the Wayland Corporation up and running yet? I mean, are we terraforming?
Terraforming. It's like we still have a blue planet here that has all like water and stuff. So
For a few minutes.
yeah.
Stick around, though.
I don't know, though. Space bitches.
Blue ladies.
Yeah, 3 tits.
Yeah.
I don't know where to go with this one.
I don't know. I'm just saying, like, send people out. You wouldn't want to be the first human to fuck a space bitch.
Yeah, I don't need to be that. I'll tune in though.
Makes me nervous.
ISIS blew up a Russian commercial aircraft the other day. They're pretty sure it was an ISIS bomb.
What, as a commercial aircraft?
Yeah, 250
Flying over
passengers.
Syria?
I don't think it was over Syria.
It was leaving some big vacation destination in Egypt.
Yeah, it was a resort.
They think it was an inside, like they had help from basically somebody who puts baggage on board.
Right.
So they an explosion on the plane, then brought the plane down. I remember when they were initially filming it, they're like, "Oh, ISIS is claiming they brought it down with a rocket," and I like to read the comments on those. I feel like that one meme that just says, "I came here just to read the comments."
Yeah.
So I did that, and somebody said, here's the thing though, like maybe they didn't shoot it down with a rocket, but why the fuck would they be filming that particular flight unless they knew something was going to happen?
Where they it's the explosion is filmed.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
but
see it.
Looks, there's part of it that looks photoshopped. Like one had like a missile headed towards it, and you can just tell it's photoshopped. It was really bad.
Oh.
And I didn't pay it any credence. I didn't even realize that it actually happened because I saw it on one of these real right wing like sites. So I'm like, that probably didn't even happen. And then I'm like, oh wait, it did happen.
How are they spinning that to their advantage?
Who?
The right wing sites.
No, they're just saying like, hey, they were kind of saying Russia's not, they're getting their taste of ISIS now. Like when you get in with these guys, they're going to retaliate against you. Like
right. Which is that's why to me it
is what it is.
It's like, wasn't Obama being criticized by the right for not being as aggressive as Putin is being?
Well, there's no, like when you're fighting an organization like that, there's no front line. There's no like, okay, here's where their tank divisions are, so we'll move our tanks over here to counter their movements, and then we'll strategically bomb these areas to loosen up their supply chain. You don't even know who the fuck they are or where they are.
Exactly.
There's no front.
There's no front line.
So,
but yet Obama still uses those terms because they're sending in a few dozen special ops guys now. So those are the first boots on the ground. And he's saying, because he's repeatedly promised not to put boots on the ground. He's saying, well, it's just a few dozen guys. They're going to be in advisory capacity. They're not going to be on the front lines. And some conservative guys were saying, like, there aren't any front lines. They're like, this isn't World War I where the guys are in trenches. So that seems kind of misleading of the president.
I think anywhere you have special forces guys, that there's your front line, wherever that fucking dude's standing.
Right.
Well, also the people that we're supposedly supporting, the rebels that are against Assad,
right?
A lot of them are ISIS. They're both ISIS and the rebels that we supposedly support both want Assad out, and some of them are there's crossover, and they're the same. Like a couple weeks ago or a week ago or whatever, Russia supposedly was bombing the hell out of Syria, and they supposedly blew up a bunch of ISIS's weaponry and ammunition and whatever, and supposedly it was 80% of their stuff. And some top commander of ISIS said that unless they got re-upped, that they were going to have to withdraw from the battle. And well, guess what? The U.S. sent a shipment of arms to give to our rebel alliance there, and guess who got the goods?
Why?
I'm wearing a Star Wars shirt, and Mark said Rebel Alliance. It made me happy.
The Rebel Alliance. The Admiral Akbar.
I know. I got it. I was judging whether or not I thought it was a good impression.
I went over to the Imperial guy halfway through it. What is something that Akbar actually says? What's a line that he delivers?
I can't.
What's the famous one? It's too late or something.
That's pretty close. I know that when I played Star Wars Trivial Pursuit, he was kind of my go-to answer if I didn't know the answer. I just said Admiral Akbar.
You're right 90% of the time.
At least 60%.
Yeah.
of the time.
That sounded like Sean Connery. So maybe Admiral Akbar's famous line is,
Yeah.
"Your mother's a whore."
I'm gonna Sean Connery.
Sean Connery.
That if I was gonna do things that are overrated, Sean Connery's going on my list of things that are overrated.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Especially as James Bond, because Daniel Craig,
Well,
the best James Bond. Clearly, Christine and I were watching Sean Connery James Bond. It was horrible.
well, yeah. I like Roger Moore though.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like Daniel Craig better. It's close. It's a close one.
Yeah, you like Daniel Craig
Because
better.
they're just
I
different
know.
bonds.
You like
They're
him
different
better.
bonds.
Yep,
man.
one's better than the other.
One's
Remington Steele.
One's a gentleman. One's a gentleman. The other one is a
lady.
brute. He's a brute. A pure brute.
He's Daniel Craig's better.
I don't know, but you have to, if you really want the good Sean Connery, you have to watch Zardoz.
Yeah, I'm not going to.
Come on.
I don't know what it is.
Me
Go
neither.
rent it.
Zardoz.
Since
On VHS, Mark? We're going to rent it?
Yeah.
VHS
Should I
Zardoz.
mail
They
away
probably have
for
it
it
on
on
DVD. They probably
video disc,
on DVD.
laser disc?
Yeah.
It's on YouTube.
Probably on YouTube.
Yeah, filmed on a phone.
I'm sure.
Like off the TV.
Yeah.
It sounds all bad.
Yeah. Do you guys remember the full-size laser discs
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
late
And you had to
80s?
flip them
Yeah.
halfway through the movie.
Yeah. And you couldn't, there was no tracks on them, so you had to, fast forward, but it could go really fast,
Yeah.
fast forward, but you had to
Mhm. Giant CDs.
Yep. What else, guys? Oh man, there's this. Paula and I have been watching this show. It's a new HBO show, and it's the premise of it is so good, and the rest of it is quite good too, like the acting and all that. But it's called The Leftovers. It's on HBO, and the premise is this one day in October,
Everybody gets raptured.
2% of the world's population disappears. They're just gone. Like, there's a baby in a car seat in this woman's car, and it's crying, and then she turns around and it's gone. And then this kid across the street is like crying for his daddy, and then like a car crashes. So it's like a mix between like Fear the Walking Dead and Lost and a couple other shows, because like society, it's 3 years later when the show is set, and society hasn't crumbled and everything, but it's really messed up the way different people are reacting. So you're getting all these messianic figures running around saying they're God and drawing huge cult followings. And then there's science people who are saying that they think maybe they know what it was, and they're doing studies. And then the government's giving out benefits to all the families of people that had someone disappear. And it seems like evenly distributed between all the countries. Like every country basically loses 2% of their population. So some people lose this one lady loses her 2 kids and her husband. They're all at the breakfast table, and they're all gone. Most people didn't lose anyone, I guess, if it's 2%. And like the Pope is gone, and like Gary Busey, he's gone, and a bunch of other like it's just rant.
So
They
wait,
mentioned Busey?
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
I know.
Dude.
So-
How did Busey
so
get
is-
on the boat?
because the reason they're doing that is to show you, is to frustrate you as you try to think of a pattern. What it was,
right?
Was it Christians?
But so is Gary Busey actually on the show and then disappears, or they just mention
They just
his
have
name?
a picture of his face. They're doing like a memorial on TV, and they're showing all the celebrities that disappeared. And there's like, it's the previous Pope Benedict. And
Who
then
else was
it's-
Jaden Smith's face up there?
I don't remember who
That
else.
fucking kid's annoying, man.
How much do you think they had to pay Gary Busey to use his picture?
Nothing.
Really?
Yeah,
They can just use your likeness without paying you anymore?
Yeah, I think it's public domain because you're a celebrity. You can mention a name or show a face without legal. Yeah, I think so. Plus, he's too out of it to
Yeah.
do a lawsuit. So anyway, I like the show because I thought about old times, 1,000 years ago, when something would happen where they had no explanation for it, and people would just have to come up with something and just deal with it. But it was also really scary for them because they didn't have any concept of science. So like a meteor or an earthquake or something.
Eclipse.
Yeah, an
I watched
eclipse.
Apocalypto the other day too. That was my matinee.
That's an awesome movie. But and like I was wondering if nowadays is there anything like that for us? Do things happen where we just grasping at straws? We got no real idea, but we come up with the best answer we can, or has science actually opened the door to explaining everything, or B, made us believe that it can explain everything? Because it's just interesting to me the contrast between most of human history, where things could happen all the time, where you're just like, huh, and you just don't know, and nobody knows what it was or why it happened, and then today, where we don't think that way anymore. If something weird happens, we're all just like, well, it was probably this, or scientific explanation will figure it out. Anyway, the show's really entertaining.
But it's still the same. Still the same thing, because back then, I'm sure people said the same thing. It just was a different thing. They say, "Oh, it was probably this or probably that."
It was Thor. We know
Thor.
it was Thor. Like we're not.
Because
So you're
most of those
saying
things that would freak you out on a grand scale have already been explained to some degree.
Well,
like
but
the
they've been
eclipses
explained to
Nowadays.
what we believe nowadays.
But Mark, you're saying that people back then would have been just as confident as we are.
Yeah,
In
That's
their
why it
explanation.
happened.
That's why it
Thor.
happened.
It was obviously
and,
Thor.
and it was probably again like leaders and people that were in higher up positions or whatever
Who told
telling them this. Oh, this is what it was, and then
to keep
must have
order.
been like, okay, yeah, that's what it was. It was this.
Because they would want to keep order too.
Sure.
If you're the chief,
Yeah.
you don't want people running off into the woods or questioning your authority. So you
Right.
say, "Oh yeah, I know what that was. That was Thor or whatever."
Right.
Yeah. So in other words, are we just as falsely confident
Yes.
as they were?
I think
Science
so.
doesn't
I don't
really.
know, man. I think you can there's an earthquake that causes this magnitude of whatever, and then it pushes waves. I mean, we can be pretty confident that that's how that tidal
Tectonic
wave
plates
happens,
shifting.
right, because of shifting of the earth crust and how it pushes the water. I mean, I don't think we're falsely assured of that.
No, well, what I'm saying is,
Or that, like, when a tornado happens, for
It's
the
a
most
cold
part, we
front
know
and a
that
warm
it's not
front.
like
Yeah.
it wasn't God punishing us for gay marriage when Hurricane Katrina hit
Yeah.
New Orleans. We know that wasn't the reason that it happened.
but we
know it was a weather
but
system.
we predominantly don't believe in that stuff anymore. What I'm saying is, what we do know, our knowledge at any period of time, we believe is everything.
Yeah, is the
the be all end all.
We're almost there.
Yeah,
we've
we're
almost
like
know
we've got
everything.
almost yeah.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. And
I think like a real scientist never believes that, though.
I don't know about that.
well,
I
a good
would agree with
scientist-
you that a real good scientist doesn't believe that,
Right.
but there's plenty of scientists
Yeah.
who
that are sold on their
who
own.
do
Oh, yeah.
issue stuff and
Yeah,
say,
sure.
no, this is how it is. This is what it is.
Because they need answers to existential questions just as much as we do. So only a few of them are going to ride it out without those answers. Be radical agnostic, in other words. But what about like the Big Bang? So that's something that we have confidence. You know, a lot of atheists are just people who would just confidently express the big, like what happened there.
Well, yeah, and I think that
it's nonsense.
That atheist is like the dude who spouts Christianity and has never read the Bible.
Right.
You're going to talk all about
Right.
Christianity and what a great Christian. You've never read the Bible. That's a dude who's never read anything about the Big Bang Theory, who's just going to throw it out there.
Right.
You ask him 10 questions about it like you could me, and I'm lost. The Big Bang Theory.
Right. Well, because
I don't
when
know,
you read
man.
the physicists
It's a
explaining it, it's pathetic. I mean, and it's not pathetic, but they admit, they're like, no idea
Yeah.
why.
Well, no,
or
and
if it happened. It's
right,
silly.
right.
It's silly.
And even if it did happen, what caused it?
So
Nobody knows.
in that
what
way,
caused
Mark is really right, though, because we do have, I think, general population has a false confidence in the origins of the universe and the origins of life on Earth. Even like they just
Anytime you
knocked
say
it back.
the words general population, you can fucking take the bar
Yeah.
and drop it pretty close to the floor.
Yeah.
You can just we can go right to there.
Limo lower now.
Yeah, just take it down pretty close to the floor.
How low can you go?
And think there's still a ton of
Death
people
row.
that
What a brother know.
that don't really even know that because they don't have access to education and internet. Think of how
Yeah.
many people are still living
Yeah.
under really third world conditions if you go to Africa, South America,
Probably like
rural
a
Asia.
billion people
Yeah.
total. Yeah.
So there's a big section of the world who still doesn't like. They're not. They might still be confident in that shit from 100 years ago more than they are.
Well, and I'm gonna
Anything we would know.
and I'm gonna go back to this, but you know,
And the creationists in this country were wealthy.
right? Well, but I mean, in America, you know, we always think about people in Africa or people in some third world country, like, oh, they believe that if you just take some ground rhino horn and
Right.
you can cure AIDS or whatever, get your dick harder. But then in America, we've got a predominant amount of people that think Trump would be a good president because of the stuff that's coming out of his mouth. It's like, well, I mean, yeah, it's a little different, but not really. It's the same mindset.
Their natural remedies might actually be more correct than the idea about Trump being a good president. Matter of fact, I'd venture to say that a lot of them probably are more beneficial than Trump would be as a president.
So that's the other thing is like we're pretty confident that that our knowledge is vastly superior to tons of other cultures' knowledge on this planet. America. So I don't know. I think nothing really has changed
in general, not just America. I think the developed
development world in general. But I mean, a lot of Americans think that we know better. Like, oh, Europe, they're backwards. They're doing this, or so.
Yeah. So, but do you believe that the scientific method is a more reliable way to approach things than the older way? Because then you'd have to admit that we're doing better than them. I kind of think it's better for its own set of questions. It answers its own set of questions very well, science in other words. But it doesn't answer every question.
No,
because it has to answer them one at a time.
Right.
Well, and sometimes you can't answer the one that you really want to ask until you answer like 50 before it, and maybe you got to have all 50 right too.
Well, also the problem lies in if you have a theory and you think something this is how it happened, but you can't duplicate it in the laboratory.
Yeah.
Maybe you shouldn't
believe it.
Put 100%, trust in that theory is accurate.
Even if you can, even good science though, even if you can prove it, even if you and I sit down and we're like, we got this idea, we're gonna put it to this experiment, and we get everything that we thought we would get. We do duplicate what we thought we would come up with. We still have to hand it off to John and to other guys and say, okay, look, this is what we did. Punch holes in it, bro. Like figure out where we're wrong and how we didn't do a good experiment, and then maybe that takes us back to the drawing board, or maybe John says, "Damn, you guys might have something, but hey,
let's try it this way."
Yeah, what about this angle? So I'm agreeing with you, but in a really weird way.
No, and I get that, but at the same time, the problem I have with science or anything we're supposed to be experts. And this goes to political systems and economic systems. On paper, it can always look good and whatever, but unfortunately, humans are the ones who always have to be doing it, thinking it, proving it, whatever. And I'm sorry, but we're flawed. And we bring a lot of other shit to the table. Our own opinions, our own, what we've been taught.
Yeah, but it sounds like you're just pooping on the effort at all, or are you just adding
I'm saying we should be cognizant of that fact. Yeah. We should be conscious of that. Error. And like I talked about last week about Pluto, not being a planet anymore. So if you look at that, there's not really a scientific reason that has been called into question, and we're saying it's not a planet anymore. It's just it's kind of opinion.
There's a loose,
and the majority of the
it's
the minority at the
It's because they found all these other bodies floating around, and I think one of them is bigger than Pluto. So there's a dwarf planet out there that's a little bit bigger than Pluto. Which, by the way, Pluto is smaller than our moon, a lot smaller. It's tiny. And so that's the kind of scientific reason is look, if Pluto's a planet, then that other stupid thing out there must be a planet too, and we're not going to do that because that thing is an idiot. It's a lopsided piece of crap, so we're not going to call that a planet. So let's change Pluto so that it all makes sense, and we can call them all dwarf planets.
Well, my argument isn't that Pluto is definitely a planet.
Right.
My argument is that the reason they're saying Pluto now isn't a planet isn't 100% scientific.
No,
It's not like,
yeah.
oh, no, we've proven it. This is science.
It's just terminology and drawing arbitrary lines.
Right.
But, I was just thinking this, though, quantum entanglement that we talked about last week, they now know that exists, and that violates all the laws of special relativity of Einstein. His laws are still doing great. We use them for all of our calculations and stuff, but we now know that the fundamental laws he came up with, not laws. There's stuff going on that violates the speed of light, the cosmic speed limit, and all these other things. And that's a good example of a modern day thing that we're just like, well, that exists. We have no idea why or how.
Right.
So that is an example of that happening. So how are we dealing with that? I guess we're saying...
I don't think we are dealing with it.
Well, some people are saying like it validates psychic stuff, paranormal things. Like quantum physics in general validates the effect of consciousness on matter and paranormal stuff. So that's one way people are going with it. And then other people are saying, no, that's a stretch. It's just science is going to figure it out. But right now, we don't know how that works, and it shouldn't work.
I think we are doing stuff about it. I think great minds are still working on this stuff, man.
Yeah.
I think the new explorers aren't jumping in ships and going across oceans. They're going other places like this, into 3D simulators and looking at stuff through cameras 80 billion miles away in space. And
but even the people who are doing that, you don't think they're being called like modern day heretics? You don't think if they're investigating stuff and questioning stuff?
Yeah, but if the people who were getting called heretics cared about being called heretics, we would have never gotten this far.
That's not, I agree, but that's not my point. What I'm saying is the majority of the science community, you don't think has an opinion about stuff?
Sure.
And when people question that thing and say, well, maybe that's not right. Maybe this other thing is right.
There's a lot.
They're not like, no, you're retarded.
Yeah,
Shut up.
happens all the
Just
time.
shut up.
There is.
all the
Edison
time.
did it to Tesla.
Yeah. Well, he was more
I'm talking
just
about
evil.
today, even.
He was more intentionally just trying to back his own business interests by getting his type of
but
power.
I'm saying that's probably
Yeah.
happening too.
No, me and Greg could give you a million examples of heretical scientific theories, like Rupert Sheldrake, this morphological theory that he has about morphogenetic fields. So these fields that surround each type of thing. So like a rose bush has this field that's influenced by past rose bushes. So it's kind of like a cosmic memory, and it helps the thing to form. The evidence he gives is that a lot of times companies and scientists they form crystals. They form a new type of crystal in order to form a new compound or make a new hot sauce, and they form crystals that have never been formed before naturally, and he gives all these examples of these crystals forming, and it was really hard for the people to get them to crystallize for like months and years, and then finally they did, and immediately afterward the speed at which those things crystallized in other places in the world increased very quickly till now it's easy to make those without any methodological change. Furthermore, they teach rats something in one place, and then the rats over here aren't taught it in Australia, but then they take that same species of rat and they teach it the same game, and those guys learn it faster than the first set of rats. So Rupert Sheldrake takes this to be this cosmic sort of memory that's locked within species of things and kinds of things, and that that's what helps things to form, is them drawing from previous incarnations having formed.
Collective consciousness.
Yeah. But one thing I want to get into, and that theory is totally poo-pooed by scientific, and probably for good reason. I'm not an expert, but he seems pretty rational to me, and he's not cuckoo, and he doesn't have other crazy beliefs.
Right, he doesn't. You don't open his house and he has like 1,000 cats in there.
No, but he did do a long experiment on dogs who know their owners are coming home. That was one of his things that he's interested in, is the dog's seeming ability to know way ahead of time, before the car is even a mile away, where they can hear that. Even if a dog could tell one engine from another, that still doesn't work. Because
seen it happen.
Yeah. So anyway, this is how I want to approach the climate change thing, right? So So we kind of, most people mock the Republican deniers, climate change deniers, by saying, you guys are anti-science because they're doubting the consensus of the scientific community, which says, the number we've heard, 97% of climate scientists agree that climate change is happening and that it's caused by man. So, but the weird thing is, when you get into it, I feel very uncomfortable when I get into an argument with a right-wing person on that topic, and I avoid it, because it's me saying, you're against science, I'm for science, because I'm with the consensus on this issue that climate change is real, and you're against the consensus. But then you got to go back to where you got that information. So how do I know there's a consensus? Well, because I read it, I saw it somewhere, but I didn't evaluate any of this stuff. So you see where I'm going? Like, I think those Republicans are wrong, but I'm not sure why I'm allowed to think that, just because the sources, it all goes back to the trusting the sources that you get. But what do you, because you're such a skeptic, Mark, but I would tend to think on this, you would kind of believe in the consensus. I think I do, but I'm not sure if I should.
Well, okay. I believe in our environment being affected by us and what we do.
Right.
And especially when it comes to industry, coal burning, all that kind of stuff. I think we are affecting our environment. Now, whether it's
leading to
long-term climate change, whether we're going to affect it enough to where we're actually, I think we could affect it enough to wipe ourselves out.
Right.
But then the planet would go back to, after we're gone, it's going to go back. So anyone that's really concerned about it, you're concerned about it because you want us, the human race, to survive.
And you're not into that?
I don't care, no.
Yeah.
And that's a big reason why. It's a big reason why I'm not. I mean, I think it's cool, space exploration, but I'm kind of against space exploration, because I think if we can't solve our problems here, if we can't fucking fix our own home, we have no business going out into the rest of the fucking universe and spreading our fucking filth.
I just think,
what I mean? And so
we could do a lot more with a lot less money if we just built telescopes and stuff. That's what you should be doing, is looking farther, not sending these expensive things out there to crawl around, except maybe to Europa.
Except maybe to where John wants them to go.
Yeah.
Right. But
finding alien life would be pretty big deal.
Except Europa. Fuck everywhere else.
But so
I want Europa.
So
man.
Environmentally, I think a lot. And how long have we been studying weather? And that we've only been recording that for 100 years?
Yeah.
150 years maybe?
At most, yeah.
So for us to go, well, it's hotter now than it was 100 years ago. So it's well, what about 1,000 years ago? Maybe it was hotter then. Maybe,
at one point, something caused an ice age, and we weren't so influential at that point.
There was a mini ice age in the last 2,000 years, but there was the last big ice age ended in 12,000 years ago.
Well,
and then but we do have stuff like core samples that now with our technology we can look back at ice core samples and tell a lot about the atmosphere and the climate going back tens, thousands, 100,000 million years. So that it is possible for us to get a grip on that. It's a very shaky science, but they're doing it.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Is how much faith do we put in that science?
Right.
How much do we know for a fact that we're accurate on those fucking things?
Well, there's a geologist, Randall Carlson, who has access to all the newest core samples, and he reads them as stating that temperatures have fluctuated way more than we previously thought while humans have been alive. So like by 10, 15 degrees global temperature changes that we lived through. And he's kind of against the consensus on climate change. He thinks like it is happening. He's not sure if it's because of CO2. He doesn't think CO2 is enough of an explanation, but he thinks the much bigger danger is global cooling.
No, well, that's what I was going to say is like, okay, even if we think now we're affecting the climate to make it increase in temperature, isn't really the Earth cooling down? And the sun, both the Earth and the sun
in the long term
are cooling down. They're not getting gradually hotter. They're gradually getting cooler.
Well,
From what
Surface temperatures over the last 15 years have been increasing.
yeah. The Earth's weather
about
is
the core
getting
temperature,
warmer.
but weather's
I think you
getting
mean
warmer.
But what I'm
over
saying
billions
is
of years.
the sun isn't going to eventually explode supernova. I mean, I guess it could, but it's going to eventually burn out and be a fucking right. That's scientific theory.
No,
that's what we believe.
I don't know.
Happen.
It depends on the size of the sun. So they'll tell you based on our sun size. I don't know which one it is, but if it's big enough, it'll supernova. If it's under a certain size, then I think it sort of fizzles out. But that's what stars do when they die.
Right. Well, I think we're at the fizzle out.
Yeah,
stage.
I was under the impression
we're like a yellow dwarf.
I was
or
under the
something.
impression that our sun is going to eventually fizzle out.
I think so.
And so
yeah.
with that,
I think
Tiny.
we got a fizzler. We got a quitter.
We got a fizzle.
with that idea, then the sun is gradually getting cooler, and then I would think that the Earth is gradually getting cooler since the sun isn't sending us as much warmth. You know what I mean?
Well, no,
and I mean, yeah, we're talking about
billions
of years, whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, still, it's like
the greenhouse effect, though, can make a planet get a lot warmer. That's what happened on Venus. They had runaway greenhouse effect, and that's why it's 480 degrees on the surface and constantly overcast and lightning storms and insanity on that planet. That planet is hell. It's the actual hell. Poor little guy.
But then life that can live in that environment would probably not think it's hell, and they would think that Earth's atmosphere and our environment is hell, right?
Right. But do we get to believe in climate change because we've read articles that say there's a consensus?
It's up to you. You can
You
believe
get
in
to
whatever
believe
you
in
want.
God by reading a fucking book.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
why
it's-
can't you believe
I'm
in
asking
climate
your
change?
opinions.
Well,
though.
it's the same as going to Whole Foods.
You believe whatever you want, man.
You're like, oh, I only want to eat organic. I'm only going to eat organic. So I'm going to go to Whole Foods and I'm going to read the package. And this says it's organic, so it's organic. I want to drive a really gas economical car, so I'm going to buy a Volkswagen because they told me that it gets this amount of miles to the gallon.
Yep.
I don't know. You
Clean
choose what
diesel.
you want to believe.
Yeah.
You choose. Like you go, I believe these people. I think that they're not lying to me.
Well, you know how you were saying that the Earth will go back to being okay after we're gone? That's totally true because in China, you know how in like Beijing, it's constantly cloudy, like you never see the sun because of smog.
Mm-hmm.
So they did a day because there was some international thing going on there, and they wanted it to look nice. So they had 3 days where like almost no car, like 80% of cars were not allowed to drive, and the whole sky cleared up. And there's all these pictures of a beautiful blue sky in Beijing after 3 days. It was crazy. And then they're like, all right, go back to driving. And the smog immediately came back.
Right.
And the air quality, because it's in toxic levels there. If you test the air quality, a scientist will be like, you shouldn't breathe this.
Mm-hmm.
And the air quality went way just to normal levels. It was insane. A few days. Imagine 100 years without humans. It's all back to plants and everything's good.
Yeah.
So how do we make it happen?
Stop driving.
What's the point if we're not here to enjoy make it nice if we're not here to enjoy it? We have to make it nice and survive. That's our compromise, guys.
I don't think we're going to be able to do that 7 billion at a time.
Yeah.
Well, it's also. I think we could do it with 7 billion, but
Not 10 billion.
no. I think the problem is the level of comfort we've all grown accustomed to and what we want. It's the same with like freedom. Do you want freedom or do you want ease and comfort? Or do you want it to be the environment to be nice and you want the planet to be idyllic and whatever, or do you want this comfort?
Right.
Where it only takes
grocery stores.
It takes you 5 minutes to get to the grocery store.
If you want a grocery store, you have to have 500 acres of blood where cows are slaughtered every day. Like the things go hand in hand otherwise. Yeah.
I don't know. That's not totally true. If there's not 7 billion of us, then you don't need those mass slaughterhouses. I can hunt for my own fucking meat.
Oh yeah, in a world
I don't need a river of blood. I just need one
in a
elk.
world where
but
there's
that's
fewer
not true
people.
because that's what I'm talking about. Comfort. You might think that, and you might be able to do that, but you think the majority of people would want to go back to that?
I guarantee they don't. The majority of people
That's
don't
what I'm
even want to go fucking
Right.
camping. But I'm cool with it.
No, but that's fine. And then also,
I'm the only
that's
one I
why-
can speak for.
But then also, you're the one who can survive and do. You know what I mean?
Oh, not as well as some, but I mean, yeah, better than most.
Yeah.
In talking about the environment and other stuff, Bernie did a few interesting things this week. He introduced a bill to the Senate to legalize marijuana on the federal level and leave it up to the states as far as if they want it to be legal or not. But
Ohio, no.
Yeah, Ohio voted no, and I'm glad they did because the reason they did was that law had a complete monopoly set up for one group to sell. It was only one group that was going to sell, and they corporate group. And the Ohio voters were like, nah, sorry. They couldn't get the support of all the pro-marijuana people, which is 59% nationwide right now.
I was wondering why that failed, why that didn't get voted in.
Yeah, that's the reason.
That makes sense.
Yep. The people were like, nah, I don't want to do it that way. I want to do it where there's 3 companies get to have exclusive rights to sell it.
Right. No, because you can give a lot of if they're going to make it legal, you can give a lot of power back to individuals and like earning power and
small businesses.
Yeah, small businesses and individuals.
Because how easy is it to set that small business up? You're just growing
it's not a lot
plant
of overhead.
that's easy to grow.
It's a weed.
It's a weed.
Well, that's why
it grows in almost every
so
climate.
But that's
easy.
why I don't understand so you legalize marijuana. I don't understand why anyone buys it because it is so easy to fucking grow. Grow it in your fucking house.
You should, yeah.
And then, it's easier than brewing beer.
Well, bro, I could
But
say
you
the
know-
same thing about lettuce. I grow the fuck out of lettuce. Why do you go to the store and buy it? I don't.
Yeah.
No, yeah. But
I mean, it
but
just depends on how much work you're willing to put
lettuce,
out.
lettuce you can't grow in a pot in your house.
Yeah, I can.
You
can?
with
Yeah.
lights, yeah. With
I grow it in a
lights.
cinder block, bro.
Lettuce.
Lettuce in a cinder block.
But yours
All
is
head of
outside.
lettuce
but
won't even fit inside a square of a cinder block.
Yeah.
when it comes
it
up
does.
above the surface,
Yeah, it's
though,
beautiful.
right?
I grow it in cinder blocks, bro.
But yeah,
You should come by and check out my garden.
It's easy to grow, but then again, it's not. It takes 6 months
Yeah,
for
it's
it
a
to
pain in the
mature,
ass.
and
Well,
then you have to trim it and hang it.
It depends. Like different
Weed?
things have
Yeah,
different
yeah.
harvests.
No, you don't have to
55-day harvest. 60
It doesn't
day
take
harvest.
6 months.
It doesn't take 6
Yeah.
months.
Okay. 3
Most
months.
of my lettuce is 45 to 60-day harvest.
Wait, are we talking about weed or lettuce?
Both.
Or are you
Well, I'm just talking about
using
both.
that
'Cause-
word for.
No,
No,
I grow actual lettuce.
Okay.
About seven different varieties
He
right
means
now.
peyote when he says lettuce.
Yeah, fucking idiot Arnie. He's like mescaline. I'm like, no, mescaline greens.
Mescaline
Totally
greens.
greens,
Yeah.
mescaline, different shit.
So Bernie introduced that bill. First time any such bill has ever been introduced to the U.S. Senate ever. The House has had a few of them, but the Senate never. So he's walking the walk as usual. And then another thing he did was
Didn't he get somebody, another notable candidate, kind of jump on the bandwagon? Then
I think he got someone
was her name
an
Hillary?
endorsement. Wait, what do you mean?
Somebody
For the
flip flopped a
weed?
little on the weed thing.
No, she's against. She's still against.
Is she?
Yeah. She doesn't want that bill to pass. No, she's against recreational in this campaign. So she hasn't flipped on that one yet.
Yeah, I like
'cause
how
she'll-
you added the edit.
Because
against
if that's get
recreational.
legalized, she's never going to get Bill to do any work around the house.
He's already going to Colorado and getting his drops or whatever.
You think he has to go to Colorado?
No.
He's got the Secret Service out fetching bags, dude.
Uh,
Get me it.
so, Brian, you might be interested in this. Have you heard of the Tonto National Forest? Tonto?
I've heard of Tonto National Forest.
Which is a weird name because it means idiot in Spanish, but maybe it's a Native American word. But Tonto National Forest in southeastern Arizona was established in 1905 from the ancestral homelands of the Tonto Apache and other Native Americans who were forcibly removed at gunpoint from the Oak Flat area by the U.S. Army in the 1880s. The Apaches were held as prisoners of war until the early 1900s. The night before voting to approve the 2015 National Defense Authorization Act, which we all know and love, Senator John McCain slipped in a provision referred to as Section 3003 that approved the transfer of public lands, Oak Flat and nearby Tonto National Forest lands, to private corporations Rio Tinto and BHP Billiton. Resolution Copper, a subsidiary of the corporations, intends to use the land to construct a block cave mine which would destroy the sacred Oak Flat area and create a crater up to 2 miles long. So before the bill went in, our buddy John McCain slipped in this provision to sell all these public lands, which are sacred sites.
The Apache have marched on Washington about it already. I think there's some of them that are on a sit-in down there at Oak Flat. They're not going to leave.
Right. So a couple nights ago, Senators Bernie Sanders and Tammy Baldwin introduced legislation to stop the transfer of federal land.
Good for them.
To a foreign-owned corporation.
Yeah, Australian, right?
Yes, which plans to develop largest
see, this
copper
I know
mine.
about, actually.
So,
and I got to say, man, like I know John McCain's not listening, but on the off chance that you are, man, that's awful, dude. That's fucking horrible. I can't even believe you'd do that. It's such a piece of shit move.
He's had so many of those where he seems like you'd want to like that guy and think he was...
I don't anymore.
Yeah.
I used to, but you're bought and fucking sold now, bro. You had some integrity a while back, but it's all gone.
I think, it was like the 2008 campaign. He sold the rest of his soul somehow.
Well, when you throw in with Sarah Palin...
Oof.
I mean, it that should have alone should have shown you where he was at. Like, I lost all faith in him at that point, but this is a really shady thing to do, man.
Yeah,
especially in light of the treatment Native Americans have received since we got here, the treatment that the indigenous have received.
Yep.
And
interesting research coming out that the Bering Strait theory is where the Native Americans came from about 10,000.
They're finding their DNA is almost completely unique.
Yeah, that. And
so those idiots that are like, they weren't here the whole time, maybe they were, dummy. You should start thinking before you start talking.
They found stuff in South America dating back to 40,000 years ago. Remains or paintings or arrowheads or something. 40,000 years, which is
it's a long time.
It's a time period where the Bering Strait there was no land bridge there before or now. So that's too early for them to have come from there. In other words, these people were here.
I mean, some probably came over that way
during that time when there was a land
but
bridge, like the Eskimos.
What this is showing is that there were already people here.
Already people, which makes no sense.
Well, what about Gaia, though?
What about her? The Mother Earth?
So whatever they call when all the continents were together.
Oh, you're talking about
Pangea.
Yeah, Pangea.
Gaia is the Mother Earth goddess.
Yeah. But Pangea. So when all the land was all together.
Right, but that's during a time when there were
supposedly no people, right?
Before humans.
Humans.
That was hundreds of millions of years ago.
But
humans have only
hominids?
existed for 2 million years.
Well, do you think there would have been hominids back then? They could have evolved.
It depends on when. I don't. I think that was so long ago. There were no hominids. There were no mammals, probably.
But
dinosaurs were.
But was there life?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So if there's life, then even there's life everywhere, right? And then it breaks up, and then evolution happens, and then eventually there's people everywhere.
That theory was just about how people got here because they didn't have any evidence of people being here prior to that.
Right.
Prior to that land bridge developing.
They didn't come from Asia, which is a big deal because they came from some earlier time. But what you're saying, Mark, you're talking about like simultaneous evolution of humans in different parts of the world, unconnected.
Yeah.
That's not accepted by science at all.
No, but that might be what this is saying.
Maybe, but it would be shocking if
but I mean,
humans
if you have
evolved.
But whatever our initial, you know what I mean,
ancestor was,
even amoebas or fucking whatever it was, fish or some, if it's all over the whole all land or whatever.
No, I get what you're saying. So when the supercontinent breaks up,
yeah,
it took life with it every direction it
went.
Right,
it definitely did. But I think seems like it's common sense to you, but I think to the scientific community it would be shocking if the same species evolved separately.
Well, but it wouldn't evolve in exactly the same, and that's why you have black people and Asians and Caucasians, and you know what I mean. Like,
Right.
we all evolved into humans, but it's a little different. It's a little,
Yeah.
not quite
Well,
completely.
it would
same.
be interesting. So there's no answers to that.
Yeah, no, that's just. I'm
But
not,
that's where that came from, right? That study where they're showing like Native American DNA is
unique.
it's fairly unique.
Yeah. Then again, though, I this is probably just me confirmation bias, but when I look at Native Americans, I see a lot of similarities with Asian people. A lot. That long black hair, that straight black hair, the eyes in some ways.
Depending on the tribe.
Yeah. And like
Because
Eskimos look really Asian, don't they?
Well, yeah, but they more than likely did walk across the
right.
Bering Strait. But then you look at guys like some of the Cheyenne and Lakota, like they call this guy Roman Nose, and he could have I could be related to that dude.
And they found those rock sculptures and stuff in South America that look like black people, and they're from way before 1400s and 1500s when first black people came to South America. In our knowledge, these are from 10,000 years ago. There's stone things of that flat nose with the big lips.
I almost remember reading something once about Egyptians having crafted boats that were much more seaworthy than first thought, and maybe they made it that far.
They still believe that Egyptian boats were not capable of, intercontinental travel, but Graham Hancock and a bunch of other people do think that they were sailing all over the world and trading with the entire world, which is totally flies in the face of what the mainstream history says. The first contact between Europe and the Americas was fucking Columbus. That's what the mainstream.
But we already
history
know that
tells
the
you.
Vikings were here before them.
We do know that, yeah.
Down the coast.
So that's what
anyway.
they would say would be the Vikings, yeah.
and yeah, maybe people
Eric
from
Erickson or something.
Leif
maybe
Erikson,
people
I
from
think.
Egypt
Erickson.
were coming over here and trading their grain from their giant
from the
granaries
pyramids
that they had.
from the giant granaries.
There's evidence of Native American plants in Egypt, ancient Egypt. So I don't know what they do with it. It was like coca leaves or something. So they think that the Egyptians were chewing the cocaine leaves like people do today still. These tribes, they pack their mouth full of like 50 leaves, put it in the ball there, and they put some baking soda on it, which is kind of funny because that's the crack. But they put baking soda on it to help it to get into their bloodstream or something, and they just stick that ball in there all day, and they go out and do their
to
thing.
Make it less acidic.
Yeah,
So
that
they
too.
don't fucking
Maybe that's
ulcerate
it.
their tongues.
Yeah. And it keeps
the
you
inside of
going.
your
I guess
mouth.
it gives you like a nice little buzz throughout the day. It's like caffeine, but longer lasting.
Didn't the Somalis chew on something too? They would say like don't.
Yeah,
get
it was called cat or cot
That's
or
it.
something.
Yeah, cot. Kaat. But these guys. I was listening to this famous hunter. This guy's kind of awesome, really smart, on Joe Rogan, and he's talking about he went down to one of these tribes. I don't know where it was. It was one of these real remote places. These guys, man, they go out in the woods barefoot. They're always barefoot, and it's like they have those horrible ants there, wherever this was, that are the worst.
the bullet ants.
Bullet ant, the worst bite in the
Might as
world.
well be getting shot. Like that's
Yeah.
how bad it hurts.
And this hunter got a bite from one, and he was talking about how god awful it was, and you think you're gonna die even though it's not really toxic.
No, it's like shaking, sweating, like convulsing,
just the pain. Yeah,
make you puke.
Yeah. And these guys go out there in bare feet, and he's like, how do they not get bit by the ants? And him and Joe Rogan were just trying to figure it out, and they're like, I don't know. Like, and they have this way of killing them. When they see one, they'll take the bow and they'll just like gently, the tip of the bow just squish the ant. And they were speculating on why they did that, because they didn't get why they do this weird little ritual. But maybe they thought not to like disturb the log so that 1,000 of them come out.
Right.
Or they smell the pheromone of the dead ant and then they come flying out. So it was interesting stuff, but I can't wrap my head around the bare feet in the jungle. How does that work? Yeah, you get calluses, fine. And their toes are all spread out. So anyone who lives without shoes, their toes go like a hand, where the fingers are spread out and they look weird. And
Tree climbers.
Yeah, and you can never jam those things into shoes, man. They hurt. So
the Christine read this thing about Aboriginal culture in Australia, and how they talk about it's something about them still being in tune with nature and feeling like a part of it, like knowing that they're a part of the natural world and that they belong to it on a spiritual level, and it's why they don't get it like Whitey does, who doesn't get that anymore. Like, we've lost that connection to the earth.
Right.
And it started, and I know a lot of Native Americans will say it started because we don't sit on the earth. Like, nobody wants to sit on the ground.
Yeah, you want a chair.
We always build stuff to sit on. Even when we get to camp, we put a log down or a stone or something to sit on. I sit right on the fucking dirt. You've been out with me.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're inside city limits here, it's illegal
To do what?
to sit on the ground.
Are you fucking kidding me?
No.
Because you look so serious when you said that, and I'm like looking to see
What
if
do you
you're joking.
mean?
I'm serious. If you go down on 4th Avenue and you try to sit on the sidewalk,
It's loitering.
a cop can come up to you and give you a ticket or even haul you to jail.
For loitering.
I don't know if it's loitering
Or for
or what they call
vagrancy.
it, but basically it's so homeless people
Right.
aren't just sitting around on the sidewalk.
You know, I saw this meme. I don't do them anymore, but I saw one the other day that said, homeless people aren't the problem. They're the end result of the problem.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
I thought, wow, that's pretty poignant, and it's really, really true. Like, if you look at homeless people and be like, oh, this is a problem. No, they're the result of the problem.
And
Well,
mental illness itself, like all the crazy stuff that happens to us people in this Western culture, you know, like science answers a lot of questions that tribal elders couldn't answer, but the questions they might be answering are stuff like mental health. Like you don't find the levels of madness in those cultures that you do here, and all this ADD and psychosis, schizophrenia, you know, all these mass shooters. You don't find that in those cultures. So maybe they're answering questions that our setup isn't equipped to answer.
Right. And then so, you know, the elections just happened in Pima County.
Yeah.
And voters pretty much predominantly shot down giving the government any extra money, like all the bond provisions and stuff. Said, no, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
And a bunch of people, some of my Facebook friends, were just all up in arms about that and said, thanks a lot, Tucson, you know, Pima County voters. Like, I hope that, you know, next time you're driving down the street, you fucking hit a pothole and ruin your car, and, you know,
That wasn't what any of those bonds were to deal with, right? It wasn't to deal with roads.
Even if it was to deal with it, if you pay any attention to our elections and what gets passed and what doesn't, predominantly, even if you do say, okay, we're going to pass this provision saying that you're going to spend money on this, they always fucking move it to something else.
Yeah.
They always end up, like, they have no problem going, yeah, we said we were going to spend the money on that, but we're going to spend the money on this.
And we don't know what happened to your $250 million in Rio Nuevo bond money.
Right.
We have no idea what happened to your $250 million.
Yep. And the dude,
Why the fuck would we give you another dime?
Right.
No, yeah. And Pima County Administrator Chuck Huckabee, I don't know. He's been the Pima County Administrator for the last 21 years. He makes around $300,000 a year.
Isn't he the guy that had all the scandal too, like with something to do with his female employees?
He might have been. I'm not.
I don't want to
completely
badmouth
sure,
him if that's not the case.
But I do know for a fact that he almost never gets anything, any plans that we have passed money for, under budget and in time. It always goes over time. It always goes over budget.
Man, he makes a lot of money for a Tucson City employee.
He's a Pima County employee. But
Jeez Louise. Senators only make less than that.
Right. And so it's like, you know, it's not a surprise to me that the voters are finally fed up and saying, you know what? The money we give you, the government, you misspend. You don't spend wisely. So, yeah, we're not giving. It's like a parent telling a kid, hey, you know, the allowance I give you, you are fucking just buying candy and just fucking around with it. So, no, I'm not giving you more.
Yep. Like, no more meth with your Friday money.
Yeah.
You bought a BB gun and then you shot an old lady.
Right.
And I got a call. Okay, I'm going back to my own childhood now. It wasn't an old lady. So it was Good Friday, and Ryan and I were home from school because we had the day off. or something.
And you decided that pinging old ladies with your BB gun was
he brought his
gonna be
BB
the
gun,
order of the
he
day.
brought his BB gun over, and we were in the second story window of my house just shooting the lamppost at the end of my driveway. And we were hitting it, like the gun was really accurate. We kept hitting it. It was like ding, ding off the metal thing. And then this hermit guy who lived down the street with a cane, he was doing his daily constitutional and walked past the house. And we were like, should we? And we were like, nah, we're not going to do it. And so we just didn't. And then he walked by. And then he was like an eighth of a mile down the street through a bunch of there were trees now between him and us in this little patch of woods in my backyard. And
so you decided to take the sniper shot.
I pointed it like, I just freehand, just bink, like didn't take aim, didn't set it on the windowsill. I was just as like, oh, it'll never happen. But I'm the badass who shot at the guy. And then, so then Ryan's looking and he goes, dude, he's stopped. And I'm like, what do you mean? I was like, no way. And he's like, he stopped. He's rubbing his leg. And I was like, no. And so I look out, or we look, so we duck down, and then we're like, no, it couldn't be. I was like, let's just wait. So we waited like a minute, and then we look up, and he's standing at the end of the driveway looking into the window in our faces as soon as we put our heads in the window. And we pop down, and we're like, no, he's there. And then he walks back to his house, and we're like, oh, that's it. He's calling the cops. And sure enough, he did. And
so how'd you explain that one?
Well, the cop came over, and we were like, best thing to do is hide in plain sight. So we like went out in the driveway and started playing basketball. And then so he sure enough, he comes over, and he's like chuckling, and he's like, the guy over there's got a pretty big welt on his leg. He's like, first thing he said was, where's the pellet gun? And we're like, what? And he's like, all right, guy. He let us off the hook. He was like, I don't want to, hear this. He could have because I had friends like blew up a mailbox. These guys down the street blew up someone's mailbox, and then the cops came and they got in trouble. And the guys just told them my name. I had nothing to do with it. So one time I was outside playing basketball. Cop comes over and with his hand on his gun gets out of the car. I was like 11. Hand on the gun, and he's like, starts accusing me of the mailbox thing, and I was like, I hadn't done it, but when you feel guilty anyway, and that guy was really aggressive, but he didn't have any evidence, so he couldn't arrest me. But the BB gun cop was just like, he was laughing about it, and we're like, we won't do it again, sorry.
But so back to the city council, so they all said, no, we're not going to give you money. People are pissed off. Fucking I think the next city council meeting happened between then and now, and they came up with two, and they didn't vote on it. They said, well, we're going to save it for the next meeting, but they basically said, we want to institute a policy of how big of a backpack you can have if you're homeless and living on the street, and we're going to possibly vote to where you have to go get a permit to hand food to the homeless.
Oh, they're doing that?
Yeah.
That thing. That's so, I don't know. I don't know what the other side to that is, but it sure sounds, inhuman to me. They also voted to ban the red light cameras.
Right, and there's a bunch of idiots that are like, that's so stupid. Like, people are going to start dying from it. There's going to be so much increase in fatalities and injuries. And it's like, are you insane?
It's called due process. If you want to accuse me of a crime, you better have a police officer that comes to the court. When you get a speeding ticket, if you go to court, the cop has to show up. There has to be a human being to accuse you of a crime that witnessed it. That's what the cop is there for.
Yeah, because a machine can glitch. It can be wrong. I've seen that thing fucking snapping pictures for no reason at all.
Even if it was 100% right all the time, it's still not, it violates due process because there's no person there accusing you of the crime. It's just a picture of you committing a crime, which has no context to it. That's not how law enforcement is supposed to work, at least in my opinion.
Well, also, red light cameras are really there to
generate revenue.
Yeah. They don't give a fuck about you.
At the expense of the the citizen.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we're trying to keep it bite size. I know I could keep going, but I guess you guys got anything? Any tasty nuggets?
Oh, so did you hear about the new restaurant that's moving into town?
No.
And the controversy? So, like Chipotle is this now nationwide franchise.
Yeah.
It was based in Colorado. Well, there's another one based in Colorado that does burritos, tacos, whatever, called Illegal Pete's.
Yeah.
And they're coming to Tucson, the old landmark Franklin clothing store on University next to the Frog and Firkin.
Right.
They're moving into that building.
Illegal Pete's serving Mexican food in Tucson.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll be here long.
No. And well, first off, it's like, really, we need...
That's fucking bad marketing, fellas.
We need, Mexican food from Colorado moving to Tucson. Like
we're pretty good on that.
But then
we're solid on Mexican
we're
food.
solid.
Real solid, honestly.
Better than any other city, probably.
But
even
Mesha,
like LA.
Mesha or Mecca or whatever, the Mexican ethnic, I forget what it stands for, of like high school and college students, they sent them an email saying, if you think you're going to move into Tucson and keep that name and do business, you're sadly mistaken.
Right.
And so basically you have to change your name.
So
that's like the controversy now. It's like Illegal Pete's. And for me, it's like, well, it's not illegal Pedro's. It's illegal Pete's.
Right.
So whitey name.
He might be Russian.
So maybe he was a drug dealer. That's Illegal Pete's. I don't see how illegal now
well, I guess because
is automatically a slur.
That's the connection.
I suppose.
It is Mexican? It's like
Mexican.
Well, it's not a big stretch. You got it.
Yeah. I don't find it. I
don't know, but
there's
it's
funny.
just,
there's like funny, like Guero Canelo. Doesn't that mean the crazy white boy?
It's like strawberry blonde, cinnamon.
But Canelo is
Canelo
crazy.
is cinnamon.
Oh,
do I care that it's called Illegal
like,
Pete's? No, I don't give a
Guero's
fuck.
like white boy.
Yeah,
Guero's
like
white.
But I thought Canelo is.
No, it's like cinnamon blonde whitey.
Oh,
but I don't think it's going to get over
like
well
redhead?
here.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit that it's called Illegal Pete's, but I just think it's bad marketing for Tucson. It's not gonna,
Yeah.
considering the political climate here in Tucson, it's a bad idea.
Yeah,
we have SB 1070 though.
Well,
yeah, but Tucson didn't do that though. That's not.
No,
Tucson.
I know, but Tucson hasn't gotten rid of it in Tucson.
No, that the controversial provisions of that were struck down. I thought.
Yeah,
that's
were
not,
they?
Yeah,
we could have Martine back on.
yeah. The good guys won on that one, I think.
Okay,
if those are the good guys, but I think they are. But what else?
I mean, it's kind of like Sambo's. Sambo's went away. The restaurant Sambo's from the.
You know what went
60s,
away that's sad
70s.
is fucking Sherry Burger.
Sherry.
Did you ever eat
Right
Sherry
on First?
Burger?
Oh, Sherry's Drive-In.
Yeah, they had like.
They've been gone forever.
Oh, I know. They had like 20 different kinds of malts. I used to go there all the time, man.
Yeah.
Well, guys, if you've never been to La Botana, right around here, it's a Mexican place that Paulo
on
took me
First
to.
and Forlow.
Wow, that was good.
Yeah.
And we got vegetarian versions of burritos, freaking fantastic.
What is it? La Botana?
Yeah. Yeah, it's where, do you know where it is, Mark?
It's right on the northeast corner of First and Forlow.
There you go. It's right around here. It's so
by
good.
Apex?
So it's across. It's kitty corner from Mama's Pizza or Mario's.
Mario's. Yes, that's right.
Mario's is on the southwest corner. It's on the northeast
Mario's
corner.
in the top 3 pizza places in Tucson.
Had it after Comic-Con.
All right, guys. That's it. Episode 35. We're going to be back next Sunday with more amazing stuff and guests. Everything.
I won't be here.
Oh, yeah.
I'll get cut next Friday.
All right.
Surgery.
So why
miss
don't you
you
think
guys.
you'll be able to hobble over here on Sunday?
Well, one, I can't put any weight on it for 6 weeks. I'm going to probably be... I got an idea it's going to be one of those things where it hurts pretty bad right now, but
Yeah,
after
the
I
surgery.
get plates and screws and they shave off that bone spur, I think I'm going to be fairly
Throbalicious.
unsocial.
Well, they're going to give you some good pain meds.
Vicodin.
Yeah.
So, but I won't. I'm only going to,
We can
I'll only take
Skype.
it as
We
long
can
as
Skype
I-
you in.
Yeah, we'll Skype you in, buddy.
Christine said when you're
From your
ready
sick
for me to
bed.
drive you back over there, I'll drive you back over there. So I probably won't.
Okay.
Like I won't stay out of it too long. But I can't put any weight on it for
And
6
she'll
weeks.
she'll
I'm gonna
carry
be
you
so,
up the stairs.
Yeah, but you're going to have to leave the house eventually, dude.
Oh yeah, well I'm gonna
6 weeks.
I got to go see the doc. I got to
Yeah,
go do
yeah.
my follow-ups. I got to, I'm gonna.
Water the plants.
No, I'm not doing any of that,
Yeah, you
man. She's
shouldn't.
gonna do that.
Go to the dojo.
Plus, it's all happening. It's all in November, so who? My fucking
course it
toaster
is.
oven caught on fire the other day. I had a 2-foot fire on my counter in 3 minutes.
Hey, my car almost exploded on the highway. So, did you hear the last episode?
I didn't listen to all of it. No,
But I think I told you about that. Anyway.
yeah. Well, I saw the pictures too. I tried
Yeah.
to offer you guys like a ride home if you needed one, but
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Share the show. Give us some feedback. You want to be a guest? Let me know. You're on. You're booked. Just ask me. All right, guys. Thanks. See you next time.
later.
Bye.